Hello, friend, it's me, Dino. I'm here again to guide you through another calm journey into the prehistoric night. Tonight, we'll follow the echoes of the midnight roar, not as a fright, but as a lullaby from a world long gone. So close your eyes, get comfortable, and let the stars and the ancient giants carry you into sleep. Breathe in slowly for 4, and out for 6. Again, gentle in, and softer out. The night is wide and welcoming, and you're stepping into it as if it were a quiet room prepared just for you. You arrive at the edge of a prehistoric valley where moonlight spills like milk across the fern beds and cycads. Everything holds a soft outline, tree trunks with bark like folded cloth, tall fronds combed by a breeze that keeps its promises, a narrow stream that trades silver for shadow and back again with each bend. Far away, something speaks, a rounded, low, velvet note that rolls through the earth before it reaches your ears. It isn't a warning. It isn't even a question. It's the valley saying good night to itself, the first midnight roar arriving like distant surf. It travels through your ribs and settles your shoulders without asking for anything in return. You find your place beside a small ring of stones, still warm from an earlier ember. A folded blanket remembers your shape when you sit, the ground remembers your weight. The sky has room for each star, nothing crowded, all of it arranged with a patient hand. The color of the night is not black but many shades, ink near the forest, smoke above the stream, the palest blue-white along the ridge where the moon rests its chin. Breathe in for 4, and out for 6. Let your jaw slacken, your tongue rest against the floor of your mouth, your brow unfurl. You can set down the day now. The valley will hold it for you. Listen closely and the quiet opens like a book. A single insect keeps time with a soft, steady tremolo. One leaf clicks against another, a metronome for sleep. A waterbird rearranges itself on a low branch and lets out a breath that sounds almost human in its relief. The stream tells the same two-syllable story over and over, hush now, until the thread of it weaves through your breathing and you find yourself rocking slightly with each exhale. The coolness on your cheeks carries the clean smell of wet stone and green things growing where no one has named them. Another roar arrives, deeper than the first and slower, a long curved sound that feels round at the edges. It reaches you not as noise but as texture, a soft pressure in the chest, a suggestion along the collarbones, the faintest tremble beneath your palms where they touch the ground. You imagine the throat that made it, immense, certain, tuned to the landscape the way a bell is tuned to its tower. Somewhere beyond the low hills, a neck as long as a small road lifts and lowers. Somewhere in the dark, a broad-frilled head moves like a moon of its own, unhurried, exact. You draw the blanket across your legs. Fabric slides and settles, the small domestic sound of a life taken care of. It's enough. A firefly sketches a brief idea above the stream, a comma in light, then tucks itself into the grasses. On the ridge, the wind changes its mind and comes back gentler, and with it the valley adjusts, fronds tilt, reeds bow, a curtain of fern fingers whispers and then falls silent again. The night knows what to do. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your camp is a circle of calm. Just beyond it, the ground keeps a memory of great tracks, shallow bowls pressed long ago when the clay was soft and the moon was, perhaps, this same patient companion. If you were to place your palm in one of those bowls, your hand would disappear in the curve, and for a moment you might believe that scale and tenderness are not opposites. You consider this. You let the thought pass through as slowly as the stream moves around a rock. There is movement in the grass. Not the skitter of something small, but a tide, then stillness. You feel it more than see it, a measured weight shifting somewhere out in the low silver of the meadow. The sound that follows is a breath widened into landscape, a gentle huff, a soft-rimmed exhale big enough to change the air. The response comes from the far side of the valley, rounder still, as if two low mountains were exchanging greetings across a quiet plain. You smile without meaning to. Your body understands, this is order, not danger. This is how the night organizes itself, with call and answer, with patience, with enormous voices speaking in lullabies. The embers in your ring collapse into a calmer red. They form their own constellations, an island here, a river there, a brief falling star when a thin thread of resin gives up its shine. Your eyes like this slow map. They drift from one glowing shore to another and then wander back to the sky where the true map waits. The Milky Way is a white trail over black water. In it you can trace a curve like a long neck, a square like a broad frill, a scatter like the splash of heavy feet in shallows. You do not need the names. You only need the shapes, and the way the shapes allow your thoughts to widen and thin until each one is a filament, almost weightless. Another midnight roar climbs the ridge and pours down into the valley. You meet it with an exhale and feel both of you finish at the same time. What a relief to be in rhythm with a place. What a kindness to be allowed to rest inside a world that keeps moving without you. Your heart, which has been counting quickly all day, learns the valley's tempo and takes off its shoes. Breathe in for 4. And out, slow like a tide, 6. A cloud crosses the face of the moon, and the color of everything changes by 1 degree. Edges soften. Distances grow generous. The stream becomes a darker stripe stitched into a cloth of light. Your blanket warms. The smell of the world deepens, damp bark, pressed grass, a thread of mineral cold from the water, a distant sweetness you can't identify. You put it all in the pocket of your attention and then forget the pocket exists. A small chorus begins near the reed beds, frogs trying out a pattern, then agreeing on it. Above them, a pair of wings passes across the moon, quiet, long, and slow. The shadow moves with a certainty that makes you think of maps drawn by memory alone. You don't need to look up to know it's there. You feel the air change around it, as if the sky were a lake and the wings had evened the surface. Somewhere out in the flats, the grass hushes and hushes again. Then the remark you've been waiting for arrives, not louder, not closer, but particular, a roar shaped like a bowl, cradling the night rather than breaking it. It's protective, like someone placing a warm hand on a child's back, steadying the breath. You think of size without fear, of teeth without threat, of a mouth that could choose many things and has chosen to be a note of reassurance. The sound rounds your thoughts, sands away the sharp corners, makes even your to-do list from the day look like driftwood smoothed by long water. Your spine lengthens against the ground. Your neck finds a softer angle. A strand of hair tickles your temple and you don't mind. If you wanted, you could sleep now. But the valley has more to say in its unhurried language, and you are content to listen from the doorway of sleep, eyes half-lidded, breathing easy. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The stream dips and glides through a deeper pool, and the sound changes to a rounder syllable, as if the water had discovered a word it liked better. You try the word silently and discover it's not a word at all, it's the shape your mouth makes when it relaxes. The insect metronome shifts fractionally, then returns to the tempo you now hold in your chest. Nothing hurries. Nothing waits. Everything is on time. A memory wanders in and sits beside you. It looks like a morning long ago when sunlight found the seam in your curtains and lined your pillow with gold. You don't know why it's here, but it belongs. Behind it comes the memory of a scent, bread, perhaps, or clean laundry, or damp earth after rain. The valley holds these offerings without changing them, the way a calm mind holds thoughts, briefly, kindly, without a story attached. A breath like a bellows comes from the meadow. Another answers from the ridge, softer, lower. The air between them becomes a hammock and you are the small, content shape inside it. You notice how big the silence is here. Not empty, spacious. It has places to sit. It has light along its edges. It welcomes your breathing as if it had been waiting for you to arrive so that it could sound the way it's supposed to. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. You let your eyes close fully. Behind your lids the moon is a gentle wash. Strands of pale color drift the way silt drifts through clean water. Your hands grow heavier by degrees until you're not sure whether they rest on the blanket or the blanket rests on them. Your feet find the cool side of the fabric and then the warm side, and both are exactly right. The ground beneath you hums a little, barely a hum, more like the memory of one. It might be the stream's slow push, or the insect's measured choir, or a herd beyond the trees walking in a line older than anyone can remember. It might be the echo of your own body answering the night. You don't need to sort it. You are allowed to be carried. A final midnight roar for this hour moves along the valley floor and up the slope where you rest. It pours over your shoulders and then under you, an unseen tide that rights the boat and smooths the wake. You feel it pass through, and when it is gone it has left behind a shape in the air like a cradle, like a doorway, like a hand. You sink into that shape and your breath finds it too, and together you drift a little further down the gentle river that leads toward sleep. Rest here. The valley is awake so you don't have to be. The night heard. The night is never truly silent, only layered. First it was the rehearsal of rain, a thin stitching of silver across fern and stone. Then the stream took up its steady refrain, repeating the same soft syllables until they became part of your breathing. And now, beneath both, another voice begins, deeper, slower, heavier, a rhythm not of wind or water, but of life. You feel it before you see it, a calm, patient thrum traveling through the earth into your palms where they rest. The valley is speaking in bass, and everything in you starts to listen. You let your shoulders drop. The blanket warms your legs. The drizzle gathers itself into fine threads, tugging the air into a single, soft fabric. Every drop is a bell beat. Together they form a long, unbroken chord. The scent of the night is clean and green, wet bark, crushed fern, a mineral coolness that seems to rinse the inside of your chest. Breathe in for 4, and out for 6. The land answers with the same count, as if it has been waiting for you to match its pace. At the edge of the meadow the grass dips and holds, not with the quick scatter of small creatures, but with the slow tide of something immense. Through the curtain of mist and moonlight, shapes gather the way mountains do when you walk toward them, arriving without hurry, inevitable and calm. Horns catch the light first, ivory crescents brushed with silver. Behind them, broad frills rise and fall in patient arcs, moonlit rims briefly flashing like halos. Then the bodies, triceratops, the night herd, moving across the valley with the certainty of weather. They do not rush. They do not startle. They flow. Each footfall lands with a rounded weight, no violence, only certainty. The ground accepts them gladly, imprinting shallow bowls that fill at once with clear rain. Those bowls reflect fragments of sky and ember glow, tiny lakes that quiver when another step arrives. You can feel those steps as a steadiness in your bones, a tempo that takes off your mind's shoes and carries it barefoot along the grass. Between the elders, calves travel as if in a sheltered canyon, horned walls on either side keeping them safe. One slips on wet clay, a small scramble, and before the sound can become worry an adult is already there, head lowered, breath warm and visible, a steadying nudge that returns the little one to balance. The mist from that exhale lingers like incense, a pale veil that dissolves into the drizzle. You realize, with pleasure and relief, that care is the herd's first language. Listen, their conversation moves mostly through the ground. Low rumbles bloom at the chest and roll outward, traveling under the grass like slow thunder. One releases a note, a bowl-shaped hum with soft edges, and somewhere farther off another answers, deeper and slower. The valley holds both sounds and returns them rounded, as a cave returns water's voice but gentler. Nothing here hurries. Nothing argues. The exchange is not a challenge but a checking in, a nightly accounting that ends with the same conclusion. We are here, we are together, night is long and safe. Breathe in with them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out longer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your breath rises like a frill catching moonlight and falls like a tail's pendulum arc. Without lifting a foot, you are keeping step. The rhythm slides under your thoughts and smooths them down, the way a palm smooths a crumpled sheet. The matriarch takes the low ridge, silhouette enormous against the silver sky. Her horns hold a narrow band of light, do beads along the edge of her frill like a string of small stars. She pauses, head tilted, listening to something you cannot hear and yet somehow feel, as if the ground itself were offering advice. Then she opens the dark bell of her mouth and lets a midnight roar flow through it. The sound doesn't strike, it enfolds, pouring warm and round into your chest, filling the spaces behind your ribs and settling there like a hand. You meet it with your exhale. For an instant the valley and your body finish the same breath together. From the plain below, an elder answers, slightly lower, thickened by distance and rain. The two tones overlap until the hills seem to breathe. Up near the reed beds, the frogs pause and realign their choir to the herd's key, even the stream deepens its syllable, trading hush now for home now. You feel your face soften into a half-smile you did not plan. Rain collects on armored backs and runs in bright threads along muscle and ridge. Each drop makes a small, precise sound when it falls, plink, plink, as if the land were tuned. Tails sweep with pendulum patience, left and right, left and right. The motion is hypnotic, a metronome for sleep. You sway with it without moving, the way a dozing passenger sways with the train. A calf draws closer to the matriarch's flank, and she shifts to make a sheltered space. You notice the textures, the fine crosshatch of rain-darkened hide, the smoother gleam along the horn's curve, the faint scars softened by time and weather. In moonlight, their bodies are landscapes, plateaus, gullies, ridgelines. The herd is not a parade of identical shapes but a family of differences, each etched by years and weather and the ordinary work of living. The sight makes your own history feel gentle, the edges smoothed by the same patient elements. They arrive at the stream where it widens into a shallow ford. The water is black glass with a silver skin. One by one the herd steps in, and the sound changes, footfalls turn to soft suction and quiet splashes. Ripples spread in slow rings, catching starshine and carrying small comets outward. Calves hesitate at the chill, then follow the familiar rumps ahead, guided by the low hums that travel better through water than air. The matriarch waits on the near bank until the smallest reaches her, then crosses last, the stream briefly rising along her shins and falling again, as if bowing. You watch rain stipple the stream into velvet. Ferns at the margin bow and spring back, like dancers who know the choreography of weather. On a rock midstream, a pale moth rests with wings half open, and the droplets bead along its edges like pearls. It will not fly until morning. The night has promised to carry it safely there. You take the promise for yourself as well. Beyond the ford, the meadow rises in a slow green swell. The herd takes it at the same considerate pace, steps placing themselves exactly where they should. You notice how the grass springs back after each passing foot, not immediately, but faithfully. It is a lesson in how to be pressed and then return to your shape. You feel the lesson register somewhere kind in your chest. Another midnight roar lifts from the ridge, round as a held bowl, and you meet it with your exhale. You and the sound finish together. For a moment you are certain that the breath leaving your body is the same breath entering the valley. What a relief, to share a lung with the night. Far off, the sky clears a little, and a rag of cloud moves away from the moon. The added light reveals more members of the herd than you realized were present, shapes layered behind shapes, a long procession you can now see curving along the contour of the land. It's not a line so much as a current. Where the ground dips, they flow; where it narrows, they gather; where it opens, they fan out in a wide, soft triangle like the wake behind a slow boat. You can almost feel the map their bodies draw. This is the safe bank, this is the shallow place, this is the smooth road that remembers every foot that ever passed. The drizzle thickens for a few minutes, a silver hush, closer to mist than rain. The herd accepts it without any visible change. Dew pearls at the edges of frills, strings of tiny lights that break and reform as heads tilt, as breaths bloom and fade. A calf tries to catch a drop on its tongue and receives a nudge of amused correction, then another, and then, satisfied, tucks itself closer to the warmth of an elder flank where the rain slides off in warmer streams. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your jaw loosens, your shoulders float. The string of small concerns that trailed you into this valley thins and disappears behind you like footprints in rain-soft clay. They pass a stand of cycads, dark crowns bowed under beads of water. The fronds reach out like hands gently parting the air. As each giant moves by, the leaves brush along armored sides with a sound like a page turned slowly in a large book. The book could be history, but tonight it is only a story about sleep. Every page says the same kind thing: stay, you are safe, the night knows what to do. At the meadow's crest the herd pauses, as if listening, and the listening spreads through them like a tide. Ears angle. Heads turn by degrees. The matriarch raises her chin and breathes a note you can feel in your sternum. It is not loud. It is not long. But it is exact, a pin set into the map of the night: we are here. From the shadow of a low bluff, an answering pin: we are here. The world is stitched together with these notes until the valley feels like a quilt pulled up under your chin. You pull the blanket tighter. The fabric whispers. Your body is warm without drowsiness yet. You are present in the way a harbor is present, calm water holding the shapes of ships it loves. Footsteps continue, patient and low. Somewhere a small stone rolls and settles. Somewhere a bird rearranges its feathers and returns to the business of sleep. Even your thoughts have changed their posture. They sit instead of pace. Rain thins. The sky vaults a shade lighter along the horizon, though dawn is still far away. The herd moves again, descending the far side of the crest toward a stretch of meadow that glows faintly with ground mist. Their passage folds the fog and unfolds it, slow origami practiced for millennia. In the folds, fireflies begin their unhurried semaphore: 1, then 3, then a dozen glows rising and fading like memories. The lights gather around the calves for a moment, as if errands of blessing had found them by name, then scatter to stitch their own constellations a few feet above the grass. Another roar, nearer now, but still round, still soft-edged, passes through you like a warm hand smoothing the back of your heart. It carries a scent in its wake: damp clay, crushed mint where a heavy foot pressed, the faint sweetness of fern spores on cool air. You breathe the scent and keep it for a while. The valley offers, and you receive without owing. That is the night's economy. The ground under your palms is faintly warm where the herd passed moments ago. It has not had time to forget them yet. You realize the land remembers in temperatures as well as in prints. You lay your hands flat and feel the warmth travel into you the way tea travels through a cold cup, making it useful. You think, this is what belonging feels like, being made useful by a warmth that is not yours and yet welcomes you. They approach a cluster of low boulders, and the herd compresses slightly to thread the space. River of fog. The herd's echoes settle into the night like coals settling in a hearth, warm and low. In their place the valley composes a softer chapter, and you can feel it gathering before you see it, a coolness that thickens, a brightness that diffuses, a hush that rearranges edges into curves. Mist begins as a rumor along the ground, thin threads unrolling from the grass and slipping toward the river that has been speaking in the background all along. The river is the valley's long sentence, patient and sure. By day it glints with ordinary light, by midnight it exhales its secret, fog drawn from its surface in tender breaths that never quite leave. The fog does not fall or rise so much as pool and pour, collecting in hollows, draping low banks, and drifting into a slow current that mirrors the water beneath. In moonlight the fog glows the way breath glows on a cold night, gentle, human, forgiving. You do not walk, the night carries you to the river's edge. Damp grass cools your fingertips. A new orchestra takes the lead, water's steady syllable, the drizzle's small needles, reeds whispering as they lean and right themselves again. The stream that once whispered is now a broad ribbon with shoulders, its sound has deepened from hush to hum to a lingering ah that rounds itself against the stones. The fog answers with a lower harmony, sighs stretch thin over the surface, a long fabric of quiet that fits. Shapes suggest themselves inside that fabric. A ridge of stone is suddenly a back. Two reeds in parallel become the simplest horns. A rounded bulge of fog lifts and lowers like a slow breath. You know it is vapor and moonlight and wish, yet some part of you is pleased to believe, a ghost herd traveling alongside the true one, a procession of gentle giants painted by water and night. They pace you without touching, moving in step as if the valley were practicing memory. Breathe with them. Inhale as the fog gathers, count to 4. Exhale as it thins, count to 6. Your chest becomes the river's small tide, rising against your ribs, falling into your belly. The count is generous and unhurried, it does not require you to keep up, only to be carried. From downstream, a note unfurls, long, low, rounded at the edges, the kind of sound that finds you first through the soles of your feet. It is a bellow shaped by distance and air, half roar and half hymn. You think of hadrosaurs among the reeds, broad bills lifting to call across the channel, checking on one another, anchoring a map with sound. The fog brightens slightly as if the note had color. Before the glow fades, a second voice answers from upstream, deeper and slower, and the two tones overlap like ropes crossing in a current. No knot, only strength. The drizzle loosens into a sift of mist and becomes the fog's partner instead of its visitor. Droplets merge with vapor and vanish as separate things. You feel your thoughts do the same, ideas that insisted on their edges soften and travel together, moving in the same direction without needing names. If a worry appears, it is a boat in fog without oars. The current turns it gently, and then there is only water again. A narrow bend gathers the fog until it seems poured from a hidden pitcher. The river accepts this added soft weight and slows its surface in courtesy. Here the water is black glass with a luminous skin, and upon that skin the fog drifts as if it were something you could lie upon. You picture yourself resting there, a raft of cool breath under your shoulders, the moon a lantern above, the banks receding to kind lines. You would drift without effort. You would not be required to steer. The river and the fog negotiate your path with a skill older than language. Listen, frogs string glassy tones from one bank to the other and back, beads traveling an invisible thread. Insects resume their metronome, ticking a steady pulse that never scolds. Somewhere a heron shifts. The soft percussion of drizzle has become hush, and in that hush another note arrives, nearer now. It swells like a bell struck underwater, one rounded roar lent to the night by something enormous and kindly. You meet it with your exhale and finish together. The line between your breath and the valley's breath thins until the difference is unimportant. Across the channel, the fog thickens into larger shapes and then remembers itself and falls back into formlessness. The trick repeats without malice. It is not trying to fool you, it is inviting you to practice seeing and letting go. This is good work for the hour past midnight, when the mind is ready to stop counting and start trusting the river to count for it. You shift your palms to a patch of mud and feel warmth under the damp. The ground holds today's sun the way a good blanket holds a sleeper's heat. That warmth moves into you easily, traveling up your arms like tea moving through a cup. You imagine the warmth as a wordless promise. You will be carried, you will be welcomed, you will not be asked to do more than breathe. Farther down the bank, reeds lean in as if conferring. A gentle current combs their thin leaves into one direction, then another, and the sound is like thin paper turned slowly. Among those reeds, something heaves a wide back above the surface and settles again with no splash at all, only a heavier tone in the water's voice. You think of a sauropod waiting in the shallows, long neck arced over the channel like a bent bridge, skin dark with wet. The fog believes it too, draping that imagined curve with a borrowed glow until both water and air agree to hold the shape for 3 slow breaths. Another call crosses the water, closer still. It hums the ribs and presses gently behind the eyes, a comfort disguised as power. The reply this time seems to come from the far shore, and when it arrives the fog ahead ripples in slow rings no wind could make. You picture great feet planting into the riverbed, careful and sure, pressing reassurance into silt the way the herd pressed it into clay up on the meadow. The valley has a method and it does not change, weight used without cruelty, strength offered as shelter. Breath in for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. Let your shoulders lower as if a great hand had smoothed them. Let your jaw slacken, your tongue rest, your eyes follow the cool of the fog the way a leaf follows sunlight. Notice that sleep is no longer distant, it has come to stand beside you, interested but unhurried, content to wait for your nod. Fireflies appear as if the fog has learned to make stars. Their lights are muffled to pearls by the mist, rising to 3 feet above the surface and then dimming, then rising again somewhere new. You track a single glow across 5 heartbeats, then lose it kindly and choose another. The river provides more lights than you can follow. Choosing is not required. Attending is enough. Along the near bank, the ground grades into a shelf of smooth stone. Water crawls over it in sheets so thin they are almost silence. Where the sheet breaks, rivulets carve shining threads that join and part and join again. The fog drifts above this small weaving and for an instant resembles the skin of a long body. You imagine brachiosaurus knees hushing through the channel, patient pillars disturbing as little water as possible, an animal so convinced of its place that the river chooses to accommodate its passing rather than resist it. The bell of a distant bellow rolls along the surface and the threads of water tremble in reply, not with fear, but with recognition. You feel the approval as ease along your spine. The night is not evaluating you. It is including you because inclusion is its habit. You can stay exactly as you are, wrapped in damp air, listening. If you prefer, you can lie down and put your shoulder to the earth's cool curve. The bank will accommodate you the way the river accommodates weight, reshaping slightly, holding well. The fog thickens and thins in a slow pulse that begins to match the beat of your blood at your wrists. When it thickens, the world simplifies to near and here, breath, damp hair, the smell of clean stone. When it thins, distance returns in kind amounts, tree shapes, the suggestion of an island, the faint slope of the opposite bank. Neither state requires effort from you. The night adjusts, you receive. A small wind drifts down the channel, so soft that it does not push the fog so much as persuade it to fold. In that folding the world yields a brief clarity. On the far side, 2 long silhouettes stand half in water, half in the low pale cloud, necks lifted, heads turned so the nostrils face the faint breeze. They are impossible to measure, because they do not need measuring. The moment is precise without being sharp. Before your mind can reach for a name, the fog reclaims its shapes and returns the valley to mercy. Somewhere upstream a log turns against a stone with a low, hollow clunk, then settles. That sound joins the night's rhythm like a deep drum struck once. You realize you have not thought of hours for some time. The river holds all the clocks and has decided to run them softly. Another rounded roar, softer now, arrives from behind you where the meadow has become memory. It does not call you back, it links the places you've traveled in the last hour into one landscape. Meadow, ford, ridge, river, the night knits them together with sound the way a parent might stitch a quilt from shirts outgrown. You feel wrapped by that labor. You feel heir to it without cost. Fog touches your eyelashes and beads along them. You close your eyes and the beads become a cool fringe. Behind your lids, the moon is a pale wide field. Into that field the river writes narrow lines that curve and cross, a map you will not need in the morning but that pleases you now because it knows exactly where you are. You say yes to the map without words and it brightens once, like a firefly answering a friend across a ditch, then rests. Time dilates the way shallow water widens around a stone. Minutes lengthen into safe distances between events. In that space your body does what bodies do when they are no longer asked to prove anything. It repairs, it settles, it sets down cargoes that are not needed for the next reach of night. You feel this as small heavinesses leaving the joints, as warmth collecting under the ribs, as a new patience for your own breath. In the near shallows, bubbles rise as something shifts in the mud and then is still. The river exhaled from below, you think. A dragonfly lands on a reed, a dark hyphen between two pale phrases of fog, and its wings vibrate once, twice, satisfied. The reed nods and keeps its post. The dragonfly allows the night to do the watching. You allow the same. Breathe in for 4. Out for 6. Again. Let the count become unnecessary as you memorize the feeling of its sway and then set the numbers down like pebbles at the river's edge. You will still know the path without them. The fog's surface nearest you wavers, and for an instant you can see through it to the river's skin, signatures of tiny waves colliding, circles from falling drops, dark seams where currents meet and decide. The seeing is kind but not required. You can let the fog be a blanket again. You can let it be enough to know that beneath gentleness something strong keeps moving on your behalf. At last the drizzle pauses. Hidden lagoon. Beyond the bend where the river of fog has carried you, the valley reshapes itself again. The ground lowers, the trees lean closer, and you begin to sense an enclosure forming, gentle, circular, secret. It is not announced with sudden walls but invited with soft slopes, the way a hand curves around water cupped from a stream. You realize you are being led toward something hidden, a place the night keeps not for secrecy but for tenderness, a lagoon waiting in the folds of the land. The sound shifts first. The river's hum stretches into stillness, the current slowing as if it, too, wishes to rest. The drizzle has thinned into single drops falling from high branches, each one loud for a heartbeat before the quiet takes it back. The fog collects here in thicker pillows, resting over the water as though the lagoon were a bed prepared for dreamers. Fireflies hover low, their glimmers caught and doubled by the mirrored surface. The lagoon reveals itself slowly. At first, it is only absence, no ripples, no rush, just a wide dark mirror. Then the moon drifts free of a veil and places its face upon that mirror. Silver stretches across the lagoon, not broken, not hurried, whole. The trees surrounding it bend inward, their reflections leaning to meet their own heads. It looks less like water and more like an opening to another sky. You lean closer. The air is warmer here, the ground holding heat in the damp soil. The scent changes, too. Wet stone gives way to sweet moss, a faint perfume of blossoms that only open at night. Something in that scent loosens you further, as though muscles you didn't know were tight have quietly given up their grip. Beneath the fog a slow exhale begins, not from wind or rain, but from the water itself, pockets of gentle warmth rising from vents hidden under the lagoon, carrying a mineral whisper that softens the throat as you breathe. Then the sound comes, the kind you feel before you name. A deep, steady exhale rising from the lagoon's heart, resonant but not loud. The surface shivers, and beneath the fog you glimpse movement, wide shadows turning, slow arcs crossing under the water. Dinosaurs, not imagined this time, but present, at home. Perhaps long-necked swimmers easing their bodies in circles, perhaps armored backs resting near the shallows. Their size is disguised by the water, their presence revealed only by the echoes that move through the ground into your chest. A low hill of fog bulges near the left bank and smooths again. Then another rises near the reeds. In those bulges you begin to see a pattern, the slow rise and fall of breath from creatures resting just below the surface, choosing warmth over travel, choosing circles over distances. The water near each breath point gathers rings, not outward racing but patient, layered, overlapping like quiet agreements. A head lifts. It breaks the surface without splash, wearing the night as a hood. Water beads along the crown, becomes comet trails down the neck, and falls in bright threads from the chin. A hum follows, rounded, low. The fog ripples outward from that note, an invisible bell struck by a gentle hand. Another answers from the far side, and the whole lagoon vibrates in sympathy. They are not warning, they are singing, a chorus meant for themselves but gifted to you as well. Breathe in with them, 4. Breathe out, 6. The lagoon expands and contracts with your chest, and you find your pulse falling into step with theirs. The count is a bridge you cross without looking down. On the far shore the fireflies lift and settle in time, a dim semaphore that agrees without words. Then the trees shift, not wind-driven but gently parted. From the understory, shapes step into moonlight, low, heavy silhouettes with backs domed like living stones. Ankylosaurus, unhurried, sure-footed, moving to the lagoon's edge as if returning to a familiar bench. Their tails hang like weighted pendulums, and when they pause, the night grows even steadier, as if the land itself were listening to their halts. One tests the water with a broad toe, then steps in, then another, and soon a small cove of armor is drinking the moon. They drink without hurry. Between sips they exhale softly, a sound like air moving through bellows padded with wool. When one lowers its head to the surface, the fog folds around its muzzle and glows faintly, and the rings around that mouth travel outward until they meet the rings from a neighbor, and together they become a larger calm. You watch their eyes, dark and patient, untroubled by shadows. Their peace is not naivety, it is confidence born of weight and practice. On the opposite shore, shapes glide from between cycads, taller, with plates rising along their spines like a row of small sails. Stegosaurus. Their plates take the moon the way windows take morning, softly first, then certainly. Each plate carries a dim, living color beneath the skin, a warm blush banked low like coals. As the geothermal breath of the lagoon washes over them, that color strengthens, not bright, not branded, just a dawning warmth. It is not magic, it is the body recognizing comfort and answering with light. The Stegosaurus pair steps into water shallow enough to sleeve their legs in silver. Their tails float and settle. One leans its head, wide and small-mouthed, toward the other, and a resonance passes between them too low to be called a note. It is a physical kindness, a pressure that says, stay, rest, enough. The ankylosaurs answer with their own small exhalations. The lagoon holds this parliament of gentle bodies and makes a single room of it, a chamber tuned for sleep. Between trunks at the edge of the clearing, a vent size, and a warmth too subtle for the air alone turns the mist to a fine veil. The breath from below is not sulfurous or sharp, only mineral and clean, like a hot stone pressed in a towel. The fog above the vent drifts in slow spirals, and when it touches your cheeks it feels like a hand that has learned the right amount of pressure for comfort. Your jaw loosens one more small step. Your shoulders slide down a notch closer to the earth. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The count drifts into the background as the lagoon's own metronome takes over. Drips from high leaves mark seconds. Distant calls from the far bank mark minutes. The patient shifts of plate and armor mark hours, though you will not need the numbers. The night keeps time so you can stop. A stegosaur arranges itself near an arc of roots, plates making a slow wave as it settles, each one easing a fraction until the line is right. Its tail, heavy with thagomizer spikes, sinks and comes to rest against damp moss with a softness that seems impossible for such weight. The ankylosaur nearest it kneels as if the ground were a memory it trusts, belly to earth, chin to forearm, eyes half closed. If stone could relax, this is how it would look. The sight steeps your breath in patience. Ripples from the center of the lagoon drift outward, slow as a spoken blessing. In those ripples the moon's reflection breaks into coins and recombines. You watch the recombining. Your mind, which has been a little busy with making pictures and naming, takes the hint and returns to a simpler job. Feel the cool on the face, the warmth along the ribs, the easy rise and fall that needs no help. A chorus of insects tightens and loosens its thread. Night birds make small edits to branches and then agree to stillness again. From somewhere beneath the far bank, a bubble of warm air rises and bursts with the faintest pop, barely sound, more an idea of sound. The ankylosaurs take turns lifting and lowering their heads as if counting the bubbles, and the stegosaur plates answer with subtle shifts that do not stain the quiet but polish it. Another call rolls across the water, rounded, full, smoothed by fog. It is answered, not in the same pitch, not with the same body, but with the same intention. These are not alarms. They are nodes in a net, points in a song, the way lights in a harbor agree from different piers to say the same welcome. The lagoon wears those notes the way a body wears a blanket, easy, inevitable, right. You edge closer to the water, your knee meeting moss so soft it might have been woven for this purpose. The moss gives and holds, the perfect mattress for a listening posture. If you lay your forearm along it, the tiny leaves spring back around your wrist, cradling without clinging. You test it, it works, you accept the invitation. The world lifts a fraction and then sets you down again, and the simple kindness of that movement repeats until your breath imitates it. A firefly settles on an ankylosaur's horn and glows once, twice, as if curious to see what this small star might look like in armor. The horn refuses to shine back, but the glow shows you the grain along its curve, the years written in the smoothness where much has rubbed away and been repaired. You think briefly of your own edges where life has moved over you again and left you rounder. It feels good to belong to that kind of time. On the low shore to your right, prints deepen, wide, three-toed impressions from a visitor at dusk, now collecting a shallow pool of moon water. A thin trickle runs from one print into the next, joining them with silver stitches. You do not know which feet made them and you do not need to. The lagoon knows. It reads the prints and remembers, and it uses that remembering only to keep the night gentle. The geothermal breath strengthens by a small degree, and the fog over the warm water brightens. The stegosaur plates tint a little rosier, embers discovering themselves under skin. The ankylosaur's backs shed dew in a slow glitter. None of this is display. It is comfort in the body finding ways to show itself to the eyes. You are grateful to be allowed to see it and not be asked to do anything with the seeing. Breathe in, 4. Out, 6. Again. Let the numbers walk away now. The lagoon can count for you. Let your hands loosen where they rest. Let your eyes half close and choose not to finish closing. A night breeze comes through the gap in the trees, and for a handful of heartbeats the fog parts into thin veils. In that clarified moment you see more, at the very center, the long oval backs of river swimmers turning like planets, nearer the left bank, the square heads of ankylosaurs reflective as low hills slicked by rain, along the right arc, 2 stegosaurs standing shoulder to shoulder, their plates making a cathedral of arches. The breeze leaves, and the veils rejoin, and you understand you were not meant to keep that picture, only to be briefly lit by it. Close by, water taps root and root taps water, a patient code you can almost translate, here, still here. Overhead, a pale moth travels in wide ovals, crossing the face of the moon and enlarging it for an instant, then gone. If you listen further, the lagoon offers smaller and smaller gifts, the faint crackle of bark shifting moisture, a distant drip finding a new path, the thudless sound of Valley of Kings. The night has settled into its truest self, deep, cool, steady. You are tucked between tall cycads and fern fronds, resting on the quiet warmth the soil saved from the day. Above, the stars are clear as carved crystal, each one a pinprick opening into old time. A faint wind carries the blended scents of river stones, wild grasses, and flowering shrubs with petals that close and open in slow tides of moonlight. You let your shoulders soften. The valley hums softly around you, not in noise, but in presence, a vast stillness alive with the breathing of living things. Then you feel it before you fully hear it, a pressure along the ribs, a gentle tremor in the earth, the slightest shiver in the fronds. The first call rolls out over the plain, low and rounded, as if a great drum were struck far away. It travels for a long time, bending around hills, crossing the silvered grass, threading the groves of horsetails and cycads, arriving at last where you rest. You recognize the voice of sovereignty. A great predator announces its watch. The sound is not a threat for you, it is a boundary, a declaration of order. Everything in the valley hears it, the nesting insects, the vigilant small mammals, the slow-grazing herbivores, and everything understands. The night is arranged. You are safe. Another roar gathers like moonlit surf. It rises from the throat of a king and unfurls into the sky, edged with harmonics that quiver in your chest. You imagine the animal standing on a distant knoll, its breath wreathing the air, the great head angled into the wind, tail drawn like a mast along the ground. Muscle beneath hide, bone beneath muscle, a whole cathedral of structure in motion. Every beat of its heart is a bell echoing through the plain. Between the roars, the night relaxes into the soft percussion of crickets, the plucked string chirr of tree frogs, and the faint lap of water where the river drifts past polished stones. Draw a long breath in. Hold it lightly, as if cupping water without losing a drop. Exhale slower than you think you can. Let your breath fall into the same long rhythm as the land. You are breathing with ferns and stars and the hidden, heavy lungs of giants sleeping far off in darker grass. The ground beneath you is firm and gentle. Leaf litter shapes itself to your palms. There is nowhere to be but here. Nothing to do but rest. A hush passes through the grass. Stegosaurs sleep not far away, their plates like dark sails folded flat to the moon. An ankylosaur settles deeper, tail club tucked, a living boulder warmed by the day. Beyond them, a scatter of hadrosaurs murmur in gentle brass tones, a low chorus that modulates when the king calls again. They listen, not with fear, but with respect. The valley is a tapestry knotted by relationships, threaded by distance and agreement. The predator's voice is the border stitch. It keeps shape to the cloth, and tonight the cloth is smooth. You picture the king on the ridge, tracks pressed into powdery soil, each one a shallow bowl catching starlight. Clouds, thin as breath, drift over the moon and then slide away, revealing a clean, silver disk. The silhouette moves with slow certainty, an economy of power. When it stops, you can almost feel the weight settle back into the hips, the head lifted to test what the wind brings. There is the scent of river, the warmth of sleeping bodies, the iron of distant stones, the pepper-bright tang of crushed leaves. All is catalogued, understood, and released again into the dark. Another call flows out, longer now, more sustained, a ribbon of sound thrown across the plain. It pours over the river and kisses the canyon walls. You can hear it return, a soft echo braided with the original tone, so that one voice becomes many, a choir of stone and air. Your breath instinctively lengthens to meet it. Inhale along the rise, pause at the crest, exhale as the note smooths and fades. The rhythm becomes natural, inevitable. If you were to place your hand on the ground, you could believe you were feeling the valley breathe along with you. Time loosens. Minutes unspool and drift like seeds on the wind. The thought of clock seems quaint here, as if such things belong to a smaller world. In the Valley of Kings, there are other measures: the interval between calls, the time it takes for the moon to move the width of its own light, the distance a breeze travels over grass between one heartbeat and the next. You rest inside these measures like a bead on a string. And though the predator is far, its certainty is close, a shelter built of confidence. While the king is awake, the valley keeps its shape. While the king speaks, the plain is whole. You notice the smallest citizens of the night. Winged insects write cursive in the air around a seep of warm earth where tiny vents exhale the last breath of day's heat. Ancient relatives of dragonflies pivot and drift on invisible threads. Burrowers feather the soil at the base of a cycad trunk, pushing out fine crescents of sand that sparkle in the moonlight. A night lizard steps from a patch of shade, pauses, tastes the air with a flick of tongue, and continues on, leaving a hieroglyph of tracks you could read if you had the leisure to learn its alphabet. You have all the leisure you need. The river whispers in the middle distance, carrying ghostlight on its back. Now and then, a sauropod stirs in sleep and the water makes a soft question against its flank, then accepts the answer and moves on. Farther still, a stand of conifers teaches the wind to sing. Their needles turn the breeze into 1,000 thin flutes, rising and falling in patient phrases. When the next call comes, it slides neatly into that woodwind choir, as if the king were a conductor lifting a hand, inviting the instruments to breathe together. Breathe with them. In and out. A little deeper on the in-breath, a little slower on the out. Let your jaw unclench. Let your throat soften. The back of your tongue grows quiet, the belly eases, the chest widens, and you feel the gentle weight of the earth supporting exactly what you are. No fixing. No effort. The night does the holding. You do the resting. The stars tilt another degree. A meteor slips across the sky, and for a heartbeat you imagine it is a spark struck from the king's voice, a bright ember drifting down to seed another world with calm. The thought makes you smile, and the smile makes everything easier. You notice how fear has no foothold here. Order is a simple, elegant structure. Predator and prey have their distance, their agreements etched by time and tested by nights exactly like this one. These agreements cradle you as surely as the soil and the grass. Now you hear the patter of small feet, some herd of delicate bipedal foragers moving like a breeze through knee-high seed heads. They pause, heads angled, listen for the king's position, and resume, confident. Their path forms a thin, temporary road through glints of dew. Somewhere to your left, a lone night bird offers 3 clear notes, waits, and then offers them again. It does not expect an answer, the saying is the point. You understand. From the ridge, the silhouette shifts and descends a little way, not toward you, but across a safe span of open ground. You picture the flex of tendons, the slide of muscle, the measured placement of each step. The king stops at a stony outcrop and tests the air again. The moon lays a blade of light along the spine and limb. The breath clouds, then fades, and the jaw opens. The next call is the fullest yet, round, resonant, carrying the absolute information of presence. It says, "I am awake." The plain is accounted for. All is as it should be. You sink deeper. The phrase repeats, softer now, braided with echoes from rock and water. Your body translates it into comfort. Even the smallest ache lets go of its edge. The soles of your feet feel warm. The hands are easy. The brow smooths. You notice the exact weight of each eyelid and how pleasant it is to let them rest. Behind them, the red-gold afterimage of moonlight drifts like slow silk, and the mind strolls at the pace of grass. Night insects return to their steady metronome. Frogs near the river invent a pattern and keep to it with admirable dedication. Every now and then, a gentle shuffle from the stegosaur bed a short distance away adds a bass note, leaf against plate, plate against night. You can almost hear heat moving, leaving the rocks, sinking into the roots. Even cooling has its music. A memory arrives, not of your own life but of the land's, a picture of many dawns ago when a different king stood on the same ridge, and before that another, and before that another, an unbroken chain of guardianship kept not by personality but by pattern. The thought opens the heart like a door. Relief moves through you without hurry. There is nothing to solve, nothing to hold up by strength alone. The pattern holds you. The breeze shifts and carries a trace of distant volcanic stone, dry and clean and faintly metallic. It reminds you of flint, of rain before it falls, of sparks that never quite become flame. You draw a breath that tastes like the promise of dawn, and the body knows, without any need of clock or measure, that the night has passed its midpoint. The hour of greatest quiet has arrived, when the world is pared down to essentials: breath, heartbeat, gravity, sky, soil, sound. The king calls again, not loudly now, but with the serene authority of a lighthouse beam. You drift on the beam. Time dilates into something kind, a warm elastic that holds but never binds. You could sleep here for a lifetime and wake unchanged, except for the gentle way your cells remember calm. A constellation skates behind the black arms of a conifer and emerges again with barely a shiver of light. The river turns a bend and loosens a soft hiss where water meets stone. Somewhere, a hatchling murmurs and is gathered closer by the steady shape of a parent's breath. The entire valley seems to rock you like a cradle, a motion too large to see, but easy to feel. The call returns one last time with full voice, rolling across the plain and up into the great bowl of the sky. It spreads its wings of sound and glides, not hunting, not warning, simply being. The echo rises from the canyon like a companion, and for a moment the two tones overlap in perfect union, a narrow bridge you could walk if walking did not disturb such balance. You choose, wisely, to be still. The bridge remains, inside you, a bright thread tied to the part of you that remembers how to rest. Now the quiet deepens in a different way. There is no absence in it, there is fullness, a gathered pause. The king settles on the far side of the ridge. The hadrosaurs loosen their chorus into private notes and then into contented breath. The stegosaurs do not stir. The ankylosaur dreams whatever boulders dream. Even the conifers seem to have said what they meant to say and return to listening. You feel the turning toward dawn begin, a slow pivot like a door opening on oiled hinges. Stay with your breath. In, and, the hour before dawn. The valley has learned your breathing, and you have learned its. You lie in the gentle basin of earth and leaf, the night still around you but thinning at the edges like ink washed by clear water. A hush gathers, not the hush of fear, but of arrival. If you listen closely, you can hear the faintest seams of darkness loosening, threads slipping free as the fabric of night prepares to bloom into morning. You do not hurry it. You let it come at the pace of light. The last echoes of the great predator's authority have softened into a memory that lives in your bones. It has become a rhythm you can call up again with a breath, the rise of sound along your inhale, the long soft fall of your exhale. Somewhere far across the plain, the king lowers its head, satisfied. The agreements of night have held. Paths remain known. The grazers rest in their constellations of warmth, the sleepers dream beneath a sky that has watched them without blinking. The order of the valley has been kept, and because of that, your body trusts the quiet. Moisture gathers along the edges of every blade and frond. Dew beads form, perfect, round, patient. They swell until their weight is just so, then lean and let go, moving down the vein of a leaf with a sound too small to be a sound. Where the ground dips, a breath of low fog collects, a pale river laying itself over the grass and letting the grass breathe through it. It looks like the valley is thinking out loud. You think with it, slowly, gently, the mind is cool and transparent as that fog. The sky to the east changes by increments only birds can count. At first it is a shade lighter than you remembered. Then a thumbprint of silver appears where the horizon is a clean, dark line. Conifers lift their arms in silhouette, the river picks up a skin of light. A meteor, late to its own story, lays a faint scratch against the sky and winks out. Nothing announces anything, still, everything is announced. The hour before dawn is a language of subtleties, and you understand it perfectly. One by one, the night instruments retire from the stage. Crickets ease their metronome to an undertone, then to memory. Tree frogs taper their phrases into commas, then quiet. From the high reeds, a whisper of wings. A small pterosaur cuts a shape through the fog and is gone, leaving the air rearranged in its simple wake. Farther out, a brachiosaur shifts weight with the care of a mountain deciding to move an inch. Water answers with a hush, accepts the new shape, and glides on as if this is what it always meant to do. You keep company with your breath. In through the nose, cool and slow, out through the mouth, warmer and longer. Let the out-breath be a quiet door that closes without sound. Shoulder by shoulder, the body lets go. The jaw grows heavy in a pleasant way. The tongue rests like a leaf on still water. Your eyes, if they open at all, see only the softest outlines, the ribs of fern fronds, the gentle lump of a sleeping ankylosaur, the stripe of river where it turns. Each shape is the exact shape it should be. Each place holds itself without asking you to hold it. A first bird speaks from the thicket behind you, 3 notes, clear as dew struck with light. Another answers from the far bank. Their voices do not cut the last roars away, they translate them. Night's certainty becomes morning's invitation. Somewhere over the ridge, the king's final low breath lifts like mist, and the space it leaves fills with feather and leaf and water. Your heart, which has kept the royal rhythm all night, learns a lighter measure without effort. It does not speed up. It becomes simple. Colors arrive like remembered names. The sky opens to a gray that contains the memory of blue. The gray brightens, rose, then honey, then a soft pale that could pass for white if white had warmth. The conifers hold their ink-black silhouettes for a few more minutes, monuments to the night that stood safely on their watch. On a nearby slope, the tops of cycads turn glossy as if someone has whispered oil into their leaves. Even the stones look polished, and the earth under your palm seems to hum a little louder, a bass note so low it can only be felt. From the meadow, a shiver runs through the grass where a herd of hadrosaurs are waking. Bodies touch, separate, touch again, trading heat like gifts. They breathe in the hour with you. A mother gives a low brass murmuration to a calf. The calf answers in a smaller instrument, and you can hear how both voices belong to the same song. A stegosaur raises its head as if lifting a sail to catch whatever breeze will carry it through the morning. The plates along its back take the first color and hold it like quiet banners. Nothing here hurries. Everything here knows how. You listen for footfalls that do not come. The kings of the valley are already at their rest, satisfied with the borders they have marked. The plain itself seems to exhale in relief, not from danger avoided but from a task completed. It has guarded and lulled and kept the paths true. Now it hands the hour to birds and to water. Even the insects that return do so with softer engines, the buzz lowered to a velvet undertone that blends with fog. In this softened world, your mind begins to float. Not away from your body, but through it, like wind through grass, like tide through reeds. Thoughts present themselves in gentle images and dissolve before they harden into words, a shallow print holding a thumb of starlight, the way dew magnifies a seed, the curl of fern as it decides to open. You do not need to keep any of it. The valley keeps it for you. Your only task is to rest, and you are perfect at it. If there is a place inside you that is tired, it is being rethreaded by morning. If there is a place that is sore, it is being warmed and widened by breath. If there is a thought that once arrived wrapped in urgency, it unfolds now into something quiet, something that looks a lot like space. You may not feel the exact moment where wakefulness yields to sleep and returns to wakefulness again. That is the gift of this hour. The border is soft and kind. You pass it without jostle. A breeze finds you from the east. It has walked the river and learned to speak in ripples. It has climbed the hill and learned the scent of stone. It has slipped across the meadow and learned the names of grasses. When it touches your face, it says only one word, and that word is gentle. You turn your cheek toward it without moving at all. The body knows the instruction. Muscles lose the last tiny knots you hadn't noticed keeping. The heart, never in a hurry, lowers its lantern a little. You are so well held that the word held becomes unnecessary. A pterosaur wheels against the brightening edge of the sky, a clean-cut shape with wings tilting to test the new air. It glides toward the lagoon you visited in the night and disappears beyond the shoulder of a ridge. The river gives a single silver blink. Sauropods stand now in higher water, their necks like smooth tree trunks painted with dawn, and they breathe steam that rises and vanishes as if the morning were making promises it intends to keep. An ankylosaur shifts and settles again, its armor filmed with a fine dew that breaks into 1,000 tiny lights when the first real color touches it. You could rise now if you wished. You could follow the path you took into the valley and watch as distance arranges itself into familiar lines, ridge, meadow, bend of water, grove of cycads, the seam of trail through the ferns. But you remain as you are, because the work is already done. The night did its keeping, the valley did its weaving, the kings did their calling. Morning arrives to inherit a world that needs no fixing. Your stillness matches that truth. The day will ask for steps later. This hour asks only for presence. Birdsong accrues the way snow used to in some other story, flake by flake, until a field exists where none existed before. A clear call from the low brush, a rising trill from the far bank, a repeating two-note question from beyond the knoll. None of the voices crowd the others. Each is a separate window opening in the same house. Through every window, the same light. Even the echoes are tender, even the silences feel friendly. You return to your body the way you return to a warm room. Toes first, then ankles, calves, knees. Let the attention arrive like lanterns lighting one by one along a path, soft and deliberate. Thighs and hips arrive next, and you notice how the earth has shaped itself to your rest, how the leaf mat has memorized your outline. Your back joins, your shoulders, your neck. Finally, your face, heavy-lidded, soft-jawed, untroubled. You say good morning to yourself without words. You mean it. Nothing is required of you. That is the promise the valley made when you arrived, and the promise it keeps as you prepare to leave. Carry with you what belongs to you, the rhythm of the king's call, now translated into the tempo of birds, the patience of fog, the polish of stones, the sure way the river accepts and accepts and accepts. Leave behind what does not belong to this day, the weight that does not help you stand, the hurry that does not help you move, the story that does not help you rest. The valley takes it and returns only light. Somewhere behind the ridge, color gathers into courage. The first thin beam threads the lowest branches of conifers and stretches across the meadow until it finds the dew at your fingertips. The drop breaks into a scattering of tiny suns. You watch one star on the ground. It watches you back. A second beam arrives, and a third. Soon there will be more light than shadow, and the shapes around you will step forward into their daytime names. As that moment approaches, you feel not loss but completion, as if a beautiful song were coming to its final held note and everyone listening had agreed to let it ring. Take one last slow breath with the valley. In, and hold for a kindness of a moment, and out, longer than you think you can, gentle as mist leaving water. Let your chest fall, let your shoulders melt. The ground is not beneath you, it is with you. The sky is not above you, it is around you. The kings are not gone, they are resting. The birds do not begin anything, they continue it in another key. You are not waking up, you are returning, warm and rested, to the path that will carry you forward from here. When you open your eyes, open them the way the valley opens to light, gradually, kindly, without surprise. Let every shape become itself in time. The fern will be a fern. The stone will be a stone. Your hands will be your hands. The day will be itself and will be enough. Rise if you wish, or remain for a few breaths more. Either way, carry the order of this place with you, the confident call of the kings, the patient hush of fog, the stitching river, the stars that taught you how to widen. Wherever you go next, let these stay. They know the way home. And as the first true light slides across the plain and touches the ridge where the king once stood, think of how the night kept you, how the valley described safety in a language older than fear, how your breath learned to match the world and the world learned to match your breath. You are ready now, soft, steady, and bright as the dew. Step, or